Hello, everyone. My name is Fabiana Cerato. Welcome to another live streaming from Reaprendencia. We are now going to debate ideas and very interesting and deepening on very interesting researches. But first, I would like to present the institution that is responsible for this live streaming today, which is the institution called Reaprendencia. It's a consciential-centric institution, nonprofit, based on studying the consciousness. Reaprendencia offers courses, techniques, and many activities to the study of the consciousness from a much more wider conscientiological paradigm. Therefore, we also held the project named Consciousness in Evolution, which is the project that carries on this live today, where we are going to be debating with Instructor Antonio Pitaguari.
Hi there, Fabiana. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Antonio. It's great to have you here with us. It's a big pleasure to be able to debate with you about experiencing self-awareness. We are going to debate about the influence of the scale of observation on one's ability to perceive the phenomena, discerning real from ideal conditions, and how attention orients consciential energy. But first, I would like to present Antonio Pitaguari. Antonio Pitaguari is a university professor, graduated in administration and nutrition with a postgraduate degree in learning management and active learning methodologies. He was a pioneer of conscientiology in Europe, establishing educational centers in Lisbon in 1994 and in London in 1997. He was also an editor of the Scientific Journal of Consciência from 2003 to 2016. He was also an editor of the book The Doctrine of the Mean from 2004, co-author of the book Conscientiological Writing and Stylistics from 2010, and co-organizer of the book Penta, Interdimensional Lucid Assistance. This is quite a very strong curriculum, Antonio. Just so people can know me, my name is Fabiana Cerato. I am an architect and entrepreneur, and I also have been researching consciousness, and I am also a volunteer from Reaprendencia. So, Antonio, the word is with you. Feel free to bring your new ideas, new experimentation, new proposals, and we'll be here to debating and receiving the questions from the public as well.
Thank you so much, Fabiana, for your introduction, for the invitation. It's an honor, it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon with you and with these nice people. And the objective is to share my experiences, my journey, studying, researching conscientiology. I like to start this, let's say, the pattern starting conscientiology presentations, classes, lectures. So we should all remember the principle of disbelief. Please do not believe on anything, not even on what you'll be hearing in this presentation. Have your own experiences. But I like to share an interesting parallelism, which is not only, but also. I mean, self-awareness as being conscious of our own consciousness. So it's a kind of a relationship with reality. It's not exactly an experience. I like to I like to try to clarify that convictions, ideas, sentiments, memories, they are very useful tools, but sometimes they can be obstacles. So an interesting proposition, because I think it's an important point. If we drive ourselves towards a neutral balance instead of attracting things, instead of trying to avoid things, but to relate to reality as it is. Once things are, we cannot do anything else. We have just to accept. So we can change from now on. We can try to change from now on. But I think one important point is to accept things as they are so we can really understand how things can be changed and how we can relate to the things we experience. So the topics I have organized these presentations, my personal journey, uh, how I got to try to discern reliable from pretense knowledge. Reliable, really real knowledge. Pretense knowledge, a knowledge that you believe, but is not a real knowledge. Then I have some conscientiology directions, just a few of them. The influence of perspective on perception, our our observation, it creates phenomena. What we see is straightly related to how I understand things, kind of a confirmation bias. We'll speak a little bit later on. And my proposition of a unified consciential paradigm. I mean, with that studying consciousness, it's not something simple and it's not easy. Consciousness is being tried to be studied in all times by all peoples, by all philosophies, by all means. So I think it is important that we try to encompass, we try to unify, we try to unite a whole lot of these perspectives because they are always trying to understand consciousness. And it is my understanding that they all got something right, but also something wrong. Even us, we are not 100% correct in what we think. So I think we are on a moment that we have to enlarge our perspectives by uniting, by accepting, by encompassing other people's views. That image, again, not only but also, I think this is very helpful, this parallelism, not only but also, to help us understand that we are a lot conditioned in a dualistic point of view. I'm right, you are wrong. This is it, that is not. But let's think that we can be both right and both wrong. And what other people are seeing is another point of view. And if we, science is doubt. And if we are in doubt, then we can enlarge our perspective. If we are certain, then we can no longer move from that point because we are already sure of our beliefs. So let's move on. Let's move on. Fabiana, are you around? Would you have something
Yes,
to say,
yes, it's
please?
very, very interesting, this image, Antonio. This is exactly, I think you are just setting the tone from your lecture now, because in one side, I see one number, from another side, the person see another number. So it is really interesting. And I just want to highlight, because you said it's not easy to study consciousness. Yeah, I also been trying to understand myself for many years, and it's interesting that we perceive life the way we perceive ourselves as well. So go ahead, explain me more, explain us more about that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I think this picture is very nice. They are both right and they are both wrong. They are both right in their point of view, but they are wrong on the other's point of view. And we should be open to try to have empathy with other people, so to understand what they are seeing, what they're experiencing, which in some sense is not exactly what we understand, what we feel, what we perceive. So let's try to move on. In terms of my personal journey as a volunteer and researcher in conscientiology for more than 33 years now, uh, I would suggest this article published by International Journal of Conscientiology, Experiences on Self-Consciousness. How can the consciential paradigm integrate non-dual approaches of interbeing and cosmopolitanism? I think this article, it's a good review, a good synthesis of what I'm trying to present here. And I would suggest, for if you want to know a bit more of these ideas, please take a look at this article. Uh, the thing is, my journey in getting to this point of discerning reliable from pretense knowledge, it went through nutrition, yes, from early to the early years of 2000. I was diagnosed with high cholesterol, and I was suggested to have statin medicine. I tried to avoid for several years, and then I came to a point that some friends, including Dr. Vieira, they were also having this statin drug to lower cholesterol. And I thought maybe I should have it as well, considering prophylaxis, considering avoiding future health problems. Okay, I had the statin drug for 6 months. Cholesterol really dropped, but it brought with it lots of uh, how do we say,
Consequence, negative effects.
yes, drugs, they carry kind of effects, collateral effects.
Okay.
And I had quite a few of them. And I decided that instead of just accepting to have a drug that would do me no good just to lower cholesterol, I thought I have to study this. And studying this brought me a long way. I came to conscientiology as a vegetarian. I was 9 years, during 9 years, I was a vegetarian. Then, when I met Dr. Vieira, he spoke of his 2 year experience as a vegetarian, and he stopped being vegetarian because he was doing no good to his memories. So he stopped, and he said to me, "I think you should stop because biology does not accept mutilations. I wonder whether this is clear for native speakers. Anyway, he was trying to say that once we were raised eating meat every day, it would be no good to stop eating meat in the middle of one's life. And I returned eating meat. And then I continued studying, and then I discovered the carnivore people that eat only meat. And among them, there were kind of a large number of people, heavy, very, very, very healthy. So there are vegans healthy. Yes, there's a reference I placed in this slide. There are references also for carnivore people, healthy. Yes, and incredibly, I also found breatharians, people who live without food. People who live without food. This can be quite controversial. Yes, I understand, I accept, I agree. But one thing is a controversy, another thing is denying a fact. So if you study throughout history, there's been lots of examples, lots of people living with no food. There are people who deny this without even thinking. This is impossible and that's it. But if you go into it, you see that this is not impossible. There are a lot of people who live without food. And then I studied Paracelsus. You see this quote, this quote I have there. It's a very interesting one. All our nourishment becomes ourselves. We eat ourselves into being, for everything that is food for us is itself what we are. This is very deep. This is very interesting. We should study, understand the work of Paracelsus. This is very interesting. So we can learn from this image at, at our right in the slide, upright. We can see that nutrition is not only food. Nutrition involves ideas, places, people, and it's something interesting that helped me grasp the view of integration. There are people on the other side of the fence thinking differently from us, and they are as right as we are. And we should open ourselves to integrate other people's perspectives. So there are two.
Just one question, Antonio.
Please.
You talked before about mutilation. Could you explain a little bit better what was the meaning of that context?
Yes, Valdo was trying to exemplify that if you raised a person, a body, eating meat every day, if you take meat out, this is kind of a mutilation. You're going to that body is going to miss something that is been having throughout his life, and that's what he meant by mutilation, biology mutilation. You are mutilating biology because you are not feeding that body any longer with something it always had before.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yes.
And then living with this contradictory facts, I got to these two quotes. The first one, Max Born, he's a Nobel Prize winner of, quantum physics. He says, the belief that there is only one truth and that oneself is in possession of it seems to me the deepest root of all evil in the world. I am right, you are wrong. I have the right point of view, you have the wrong point of view. So for Max Born, this is the deepest root of evil in all the world. And then another Nobel laureate from economics, Friedrich Hayek, he says there that, I won't read this too long, but he says that knowledge is always dispersed throughout the whole. Knowledge is never in possession of one individual or even a group. Knowledge is dispersed throughout the whole. A little bit here, a little bit there. So only the whole will have the ability to grasp, to allow, to join everything together. So these two quotes, they were very important for me because it enforced the need to integration, to empathy, to be in doubt, to question our convictions, to be open to other points of views. So this is what I've been trying to do. And I like to point out some conscientiology direction, starting with two quotes from Dr. Vieira. The most critical question for a social being will always be, where, how, and for how long have I been an original lucid being of a mere unconscious photocopy? Okay, am I running my life? Am I running my understanding from myself or from authority? Truth is authority. Authority is not truth. And the second one, in conscientiology, the evolutionary experience of the principle of disbelief based on the cosmoethical experiences of the interphysical consciousness of the intermissivist, man or woman, in itself overlaps with conscientiocentric institutions, the Council of Epicones, and all other organizations. So you have to stand by yourself. You have to stand on your legs. You have to understand from, for yourself. And that's I think the basis in studying consciousness. Consciousness is the best tool to study consciousness, and only consciousness can study consciousness. I cannot study your consciousness. Well, I can, but it's not as precise as studying and entering and understanding consciousness from myself, from my consciousness. And here are a few conscientiology directions. Admiration, disagreement, binomial. I mean, I admire, but I also disagree. Great. A temporal pluri-awareness. Okay, when you study cosmic consciousness, you see that when you amplify your capacity, your ability to understand what consciousness is, time changes. I mean, the influence of time is reduced because we are too much conditioned to time. Time and the physical life runs very slowly, and an improvement, enlargement of the point of view of consciousness requires that we transcend the limits of time, present, past, future. They are all the same and just one thing, the continuous present. This is on the book Projectology, if you study that. And it is very interesting, so we can try to avoid being too much attached to time. Cosmoethical critical consciousness. This is a very interesting part in conscientiology. I've been working with this several years. I had the privilege for being invited by Dr. Vieira for the course. Useful book. Heterocrítica de obra útil. Useful critique book. Critique, yeah, something like that.
Well, yeah, I think it's probably closer, no? Heterocritica, I think, would be heterocritic, no, or heterocriticize, which is a course that studies one specific book, right, Antonio?
Yes.
Could you explain more about that?
Yes, it is there on the article. If you read the article, you will have more information, and it's very interesting because you see, the more you develop your abilities to criticize, to understand, to evaluate others' points of views, written words, written books, and so on. This is the definition of the development of our hollow maturity. Então, our body, our psychological, our consciousness maturity will improve. And I think this is a very interesting direction in conscientiology. Another direction is heteropsychic versus self-psychic stimuli. I mean with this that there are things that comes from the outside. There are things that you are creating inside. So discerning both perspectives, discerning that both can be right and both can be wrong, this will be very helpful. And one of the main objectives of conscientiology is self-awareness. Self-awareness. I mean with this, being aware of yourself. Being aware of yourself. Conscious of your consciousness, independently of where you are. Being aware of your consciousness. Consciousness is not the brain. The brain is a tool that consciousness uses. So I think the following one will help us understand this better. Realizing and overcoming self-conflicts. Self-conflicts deriving from, let's say, from ego attachments. I wrote an article, a verbate in Encyclopedia of Conscientiology, cosmoethical ego side. So reducing ego, let's say killing ego in terms of awakening to consciousness. And this is exactly the last one, transcending ego, transcending ego. In conscientiology, we study the brain, and we understand that the next step, we will transcend the brain with the parabrain. The brain is a tool, important, interesting, needy. We have to deal with it. We have to learn from it. We have to learn how to develop it. Perfect. But on the other hand, at some point, we have to transcend from brain to parabrain. Consciousness is freer. It's more on the parabrain, and this transcendence and this path from the brain to parabrain involves learning how to integrate dualities, right, wrong, good, bad, hot, cold, night, day, sun, moon, breathing, inspiring, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. We are constantly living these dual movements, yin yang, and we have to balance, a neutral balance, so to be less influenced by time, so to be more aware of consciousness and who we really are. Then we then I got to in searching these different points of views, the influence of perspective on perception, understanding and integrating consciousness viewpoints. And then I got to, you say, conscientiology is a dualistic perspective. There are in the universe consciousness and energy. In conscientiology, we are studying the progressive path. We are evolving little by little. We are learning from our experiences. And at one point, we will be Homo sapiens serenissimus. Great. This is perfect. This is wonderful. I had this perspective all these 30 plus years. I agree with it. I learned a lot from it. Great. But then, at some point, I discovered the non-dual approach. Non-dual approach. Conscientiology is a progressive path. Day after day, one day we will get there. In non-dual approach, Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Sufism, lots of different perspectives, Advaita Vedanta in Hinduism, they have this non-dual approach. What is the non-dual approach? There are no two things. There is just consciousness. Energy is not permanent, so energy does not exist. We live in the world of Maya, illusion, everything changes, and at the same time, we are already consciousness inside of us. So instead of the progressive path, day after day, learning after learning, we have the direct path, which is instead of searching things outside, you move inwards. You are already consciousness. You don't have to search yourself in anywhere. You are already consciousness. You have only to deactivate the veil. You have only to eradicate the beliefs, the wrongness, the mistakes, you have created for yourself. Lots of cultures, lots of different ways. This week I was reading an Indian text. And the Indian, he was saying, we are a lot different than white people. Our ancestors teach us the silence. We have to observe. We have to ask. We have to act. So, to transcend from brain to parabrain, to get to consciousness, we have to transcend our thoughts, because our thoughts, they are related to our past, to our memories, and there are lots of conditionings, and so consciousness is integrating all these things. So I'm talking about non-dualism. At the same time, I got to some monism perspectives, like this one, organism, environment, system. Very interesting. Very interesting. So I would say all these 3 points of views, they are very useful. They are very interesting. And if you want to understand and look at consciousness, we have to transcend our limited point of view. We have to integrate other points of views. We have to understand that our perspective creates what we see, what we experience, and what we encounter. Others, at their own pace, at their own thing, everything together. So let's think together, let's feel together, let's relate to reality together. So this is the perspective, this is the experience of self-awareness that I am having in terms of amplifying a singular, a personal, an egocentric point of view, trying to join and to integrate with other people's, being aware, being lucid, being responsible, being mature in terms of developing a better perspective. I wrote there cognitive biases, confirmation biases, pervasive labeling disorder. This is very interesting in terms of you label things and then you alter things. Intrusion is like this. When you label one thing, that guy is right because of this, that guy is wrong because of that. This is kind of a pervasive labeling disorder, because you will change things as they should be and as they are. Again, it will help us consilience the unity of knowledge, the unity of knowledge by Edward O. Wilson. Consilience is thinking together and creating. We've been doing this in conscientiology, but I think it's time we go beyond. I mean, the consciential paradigm it's very interesting, but it should encompass, it should include, it should be open to integrate others' perspectives, so we won't be blocked by our own limitations. Here is the example I gave from demonism, the theory of organism environment system. Please, interested people, please take a look at this. It's very interesting. The summary here is the link, and this abstract describes together with the table of contents quite well. Here is a non-dual approach. I've been reading about non-dualism, and these are some of the readings I've been making, and I strongly suggest any one of them. The pictures at left: Rupert Spira, Bernardo Kastrup, Adyashanti and his wife, Angelo Di Lullo. The book Non-Duality from David Loy, I Am That, Nisargadatta Maharaj. This book is a real atomic bomb. Read this. Very, very conceptual, exploding. It explodes concepts. So we can have a feeling that studying can be quite helpful, can help us a lot. But at some point, it will become an obstacle because theories and ideas are not what we are. What we are really can be felt, can be grasped, can be achieved through silence. Through silence when there is no mental talking. Mental talking is good, is a important rule, important tool, but at some point can be an obstacle. The other readings, I mean, this map of consciousness from David Hawkins, very interesting. And at the right is Chinese knowledge. Please take a look at Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. I'm fascinated by this book since I was very young. I never understood it. Now, studying non dual approaches, it's becoming clear, and I strongly suggest you to study these things. For those who are more into science, because you see, one thing is to study the person who has the experience. Another thing is to study the person who is on this side of the river. There's something there. Look at there. It's interesting, it's important, it's valuable. Yes. But if you study someone who is on the other side of the river, who's been there, it's much different. But anyway, this is a very interesting article. Frontiers in Psychology, Freedom of the Mind. Look at this. They are studying in laboratories, in mental images. They are studying non-dual awareness. Non-dual awareness. What happens to the brain when a person is having a non-dual experience or is developing his non-dual awareness? I strongly suggest this article. If you read the reference, this is an opinion article, but it quotes lots of other authors from very different points of view. So it's a good start if you go through this book, to this article. Okay, an example when we try to unify the paradigm of consciousness, consciential paradigm unified. I mean, how attention orients consciential energy. Okay, let's study a little bit of the Four Noble Truths from Buddhism. I'm trying to suggest the importance of a neutral balance of your attention. Awareness is becoming aware of your consciousness. So, awareness is directly related to your attention. Your attention is neutral, or your attention is always trying to get something or to avoid something. So, how attention orients consciential energy. According to the Four Noble Truths, dukkha is the symptom, dissatisfaction, impermanence, even happiness and pleasure, because they are impermanent. And so, dissatisfaction is we are having an attention and awareness limited by our fears, by our thirst, which is the second noble truth. Disease, thirst, desire, origin of dukkha. We are trying something, we are searching something, we are dissatisfied because we are searching something. We are not playing, we are not in balance, we are not happy, not happiness, but we are not in equilibrium. Nirvana is the third noble truth and is the cure, is the extinction of thirst, of the cravings, and of impulses. Ego is the veil, neutral energetic balance, flow state. What I mean is when you are in balance, when you are not desiring, when you are not dissatisfied by anything, then you can be what you are because you are not placing anything in the future. You are not suffering nothing from the past. You have crossed the Rubicon. You remember this experience of crossing the Rubicon? Caesar, he was in conflict with the Senate. And the Senate said, don't cross the river. But he was courageous. He did what he had to do. And he crossed the Rubicon. I mean, crossing the Rubicon, crossing the river, is crossing your unconsciousness, is confronting your fears, is being in balance because you don't have any more to achieve. You are what you are, and consciousness is inside of you. And past, present, future is just one same thing if we are consciousness and if we are able to transcend from ego to parabrain. The fourth noble truth, eightfold path directions. Here are the suggestions in order to overcome the limitations of dukkha. But this is very interesting because it helps us to feel, to understand consciousness from other point of view. And as the point I'm trying to make, that if consciousness cannot be seen from a singular individual point of view, because we are a simple cell of consciousness. So, the unified consciential paradigm, discerning real from ideal conditions. Real from ideal. Real is what is at this moment in time. This is real. This cannot be changed. If we are, I didn't do that. No, don't feel anything. Things are as they are. The best you can do is from now on. But this moment is result not only of your activities, but everyone's activities. So first-hand experiences and second-hand. I think I've said that before a little bit. Map and territory, finger and moon. Okay, one thing is what is. Another thing is what you think is and what you're saying it is. We should go back in China and see the first chapter of Lao Tzu, Tao Te King. The real Tao cannot be put in words. Words are just symbols. Just like thoughts. Thoughts are just symbols. They are not the real thing. Thoughts and words, timely symbols, do not mean real consciousness. Being at most sincere deceptions. Authority can be overwhelming, not your experience, nothing inside. Authority will say this and will say that, will say this is it, this is that, but this is a borrowed truth because real truth can only be found inside. Empathy, social cognition, group conscientiality, connection in health. This is the proposition that I want to make. Let's study these points of views. Let's propose the openness, the enlargement of the consciential paradigm. Let's understand what group conscientiality is all about, because there will be health only in connection. There will be health only when there is empathy. Para-brain transcendence, integrating integration of linear right-wrong reasoning with non-linear understanding, paradoxes and dualism, parallelism, not only but also. We are very conditioned in dualist approaches, so let's try to integrate things beyond right-wrong reasoning, non-linear understanding. This is quite interesting. Aporia, aporia. I wonder whether you know this perspective. Is very interesting. Integration of paradoxes. Aporia is being open to what you don't know. Is being open to what you don't know. And time consciousness versus time of the watch. Time consciousness. We should study this concept. Time consciousness is not the time of watch. We live constantly our doer profile. We we wake up and we follow the watch doing this and that and this and that, and this can, instead of allowing us to come inside, they will just get us beyond. I mean, will get us nowhere, because consciousness here, to be really experienced, we have to reduce the influence of time. Final words. Final words. These are from Rainer Maria Rilke. Very interesting. Give up all that. You are looking to the outside. Nobody can advise you and help you. There is only one way. Go into yourself. Follow your development quietly and seriously. You cannot disrupt it more than by looking outwards and expecting answers from without to questions that only your innermost instinct in your quietest moments will perhaps be able to answer. And to conclude, what is self awareness? What is self consciousness? Does it involve empathy? Does it involve understanding others? Does it involve love, understanding, and assistance? How it relates to empathy, helping and learning from others? So, I have an invitation for those interested people. We are trying to, we had already a meeting. I have invited Fabiana for this meeting to create the Invisible College of Self-Conscientiology. At this point, we are doing in Portuguese. But you see, if there's any English speaking people interested, please feel free to send an email, send a WhatsApp, whatever. Let's work together. Let's try to develop and work in terms of this most important objective of conscientiology, which is to develop our self consciousness and our self-awareness. Thank you so much for this time and opportunity.
Antonio, I am impressed. There are so many, I have at least 11 questions here. There are so many ideas, so many important, serious, profound ideas you brought. I am really impressed. If you allow me, I would like to summarize a few block of those ideas you brought, just to highlight a few points. So if people are checking now, they will be able to understand a little bit before we finished. So you started in a very strong way, no, bringing that image from the beginning, showing already us that there are no right and wrong, no, could be both ideas, perspectives could be right or wrong. You thought about truth, time, cosmoethical, self-awareness, who we are. You also brought for me was a very important idea, this transcendence of the brain, popping out from the brain and integrating ourselves into the para-brain. You also talked about integrating non-dual views and non-dual perspectives. And this is my first question. I'll be popping out one more second. You talked about a progressive path involving Homo sapiens serenissimus. You talked about perspective. You talked about labeling things. Once we label, then the thing is what we label. So this is also was very important to understand. You talked about the freedom of the mind, the thoughts and the symbols, that they are not what we are, but they are thoughts and symbols, and sometimes we mixed with them. You talked about aporia. You talked about so many other important things. But my first question out of so many questions I have is, you talked a lot about integrating dualism. How can we integrate what we think is right with what we think is wrong, and how we can amplify from that? And then I have a few more questions if you could start to.
Well, I don't know if I can answer your question. What, what I
It's
can
not a
say,
tricky one.
what I can say, I have been in the past very dualistic. When I was vegetarian, I would shame carnivore people. And then when I was avoiding sugar and grain and wheat, I was also very aggressive and very opposed to people who ate sugar and wheat. And I think with time, when I saw that it could be otherwise than I thought, I started changing. And I'm still changing because the conditioning of my uh, critique mind is still very strong, but it's less strong nowadays than it was before. So I think working together would help us in achieving these next levels, this next step.
I see. And you also brought one important information out of so many down deep information you brought in all these years of study you've been doing. You you taught you consider that we are not thoughts. The thoughts are symbols, no. So you said that the consciousness is more than thoughts, and you also brought the idea of theory. So Antonio, in one hand, we do need theory from, so to say, from scientific point of view to understand who we are. Otherwise, we get dispersed and we don't focus on understanding more who we are. But can we say that we arrive up to one point in which we need to pop
Yes.
out from the same theory we use to understand ourselves, and could you
Yes, I think
enlarge from there?
yes, I think your point is very interesting because you see the dualistic progressive way of conscientiology is very important because we have to mature and we have to mature to such a point that we are able to deal with conflict. And then when we are dealing with overcoming internal inner conflicts, we will have to deal with dualistic right wrong perspectives. We have to learn how to deal with other people's because they are doing their way. So not only not only but also not only but also. So the other person's point of view is different than mine. He knows something that I don't. I know something that he or she doesn't. So we should join together and try to resolve, try to be together, try to achieve a common point. I think this common point is what humanity now is most needing because we are too much dualistic. We are too much opposed to each other. So the most important thing we need today is to be together and to understand that together we are stronger and we have to stop conflicts. We have to stop creating problems. Let's go to the solutions.
Another point from there, Antonio, thank you, is that in one hand, you talked about conjunction of people, you talked about us as a group, and I could understand that you highlight that when we are in a group, when we are interacting, we grew up better. But from another perspective that you brought, we also need to understand who we are. So in one hand, we need to understand and aim and look from a cosmoethical point of view, using the best of our knowledge, the best of our thoughts of who we are. But on the other hand, there is, can I say a word, can I use the word limit from there? Because then we will need the others to interact and to understand. Perhaps we might consider saying that we could see ourselves when we interact with others. I don't know if I can say that. If you could elaborate more from there.
Yes, what I would say is we are living now and we are interchanging in this dualistic world. So
Say,
whatever thing I say, whatever thing you say, it can be exactly the opposite at the same time. At the same time, it can be just the other way around. So let's let's sit, let's share, and let's move forward one step after the other. There are people who needs more inner work. There are people who needs more group work. It depends on a lots of factors. So there is no final answer to any question because
say,
every question, every problem is related to some person, to some group, to some specific occasion. So let's see in this moment in time, me and you at this moment, what do I need? What do you need? Because
say.
tomorrow it will be different. In another group, it will be different. So there's no the final words I put on Rainer Maria Wilk. It's something inside. The thing is, let's not turn outside things as solutions to my inside problems because my inside needs are specific to myself and to my experience. So being together, we help one help the other. Let's go together, but everyone is different. And I think one example. I'm trying to make this point of group work. Group work, yeah, it's important, but I think we should study. Let's see, Lao Tzu in his book Tao Te Ching. It's
Okay.
very interesting the way he ended his life with 200 people and working with these 200 people in terms of developing and amplifying the group conscientiality, calling this way now. So
Let's see.
I don't have these answers. I'm the very I'm the beginning of this. I'm doing this change. I am trying to find ways. So I'm begging for people's work so we can do together. And I think together we can do much better because connection is health.
That's great. That's fantastic. Antonio, could you highlight just last two items before we wrap it up? One is the label issue that you brought. I like it very much. And another one, I think it will be nice if we could finish talking again about a few books that you taught before. Perhaps it would be interesting to wrap it up and to help all of us to expand more, because I understand that in one hand we need to clean the dust. I mean, we need to pop out from the basic needs of our ego, which we need to solve in order for us to go deeper, to deep on, to dive in ourselves. And reading books is a fantastic way to do
Yeah.
this,
You
interacting with others as well.
you meant the pervasive labeling disorder, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
This is a this is conclusions, part six, conclusions
I
of this
see.
book. Exactly this book, tools of critical thinking.
Let me open more the view here. Okay, great. Mm-hmm.
Tools of critical thinking.
Okay.
This is one of the best books of critical thinking. I was reading this the other day because I'm preparing for a university, a class of critical thinking, and it impressed me a lot. This chapter six conclusions is the appendix one, pervasive labeling disorder. So when you formulate a label in your mind about something, about someone, you become an intruder
Yeah.
because the person is not that. This is your point of view. This is not what he is, what she is, what she could be, he could be, what the thing could be in some point. So we have to be neutral. How consciential energy orients energy? These labels are definitely a strong direction of intrusion energy. We should be neutral. You should be neutral. So this is my effort nowadays to be neutral, have neutral balance in my mind instead of judging, instead of saying this and that, I'm right, this is wrong, instead of sending energy to people like, oh, this guy is still very young. No, this is wrong. This is pseudo conscientiology. No, no, this. Let's
See.
be in neutrality, in balance, in equilibrium, so to be able to feel what it really is, not what my mind is telling me. Because who is the producer of my thoughts? It's my unconscious. And I have lots of repressed material in my unconscious. So we have to travel through the unconscious. We have to face our fears. We have to face our needy, our incomplete experiences. So to understand, and once the past is understood, there will be no more influences in our minds.
See. So you also talk, Antonio. Thank you very much for that, for highlighting that book and bringing everything. You also brought us the Taoism, the Buddhism, and others
Sufism,
Sufism.
Hinduism.
Great. And I think it's important to highlight that. So because with that, that amplifies our perspective. So we don't risk perceiving life only under one limitation, one view.
One
So
little box. One little box.
yes, your suggestion is amplify that. But of course, on the other hand, I need to, perhaps it's not label, but I need to discern what is closer to my principles, to my ideas, and what is not so close. So in some way, I will be reading, studying, and separating those thoughts as you mentioned. No,
Yes.
so this is interesting.
Yeah. So you said a very important word, separation. Separation. So instead of separating ourselves,
Okay.
let's think of uniting ourselves. We are not a single consciousness. In the surface, we are all apart from each other. But it's my understanding, and it's one of the things I would like in the Invisible College to study, is whether in the deep part of consciousness, is there a single consciousness? Is there an universal consciousness, as some Taoism, Buddhism, and some other philosophies suggest? Or universe is composed of individualized trillions, quadrillions of individualized consciousnesses? Or in the end, we have just one single consciousness. Remember Ubuntu, Ubuntu. I am because we are. There wouldn't be myself if there were there weren't other people. So let's study more. Let's have our own experience. That's why we're here. And we have a very privileged condition in conscientiology. The CCCI and all these people studying consciousness, all these dynamics, all this group work, all these courses. Next year, we have the CP3, which is a great opportunity to be together and to amplify our point of view, because together we can go much longer, much safer, and much more assistance to other people, as the reurbanization being proposed by the intermissive courses that we are here working for.
Thank you. That's fantastic, Antonio. That's a very good conclusion, and we are over in our time. But I think we need more and more. We need to talk more. We need to have more debates like this, and we will be keeping in touch. We will be organizing more debates. You will certainly be invited for more debates like this. And we are very happy to have been able to debate and discuss with you here. And also in the name of Reaprendencia, we would like to thank for your presence, Antonio. Thank you very much. It was fantastic. I encourage everyone to get in touch with you to have more information and perhaps to participate from the Invisible College of Self-Conscientiology. Would you like to say some final words to address before we close?
I think we have spoken enough. I just want to thank you so much for your invitation. Thank you so much for all your help you gave me before the presentation. And let's go together. Yes, yes, I'm with you. And thank you so much again, everyone listening. Write if you feel free to write. Let's be together and let's try to develop a better consciential paradigm.
In a better life. This is our goal. If you have any more questions, feel free to write us. You have down this live streaming. You have the information you need to contact us. So once again, thank you very much, Antonio. Thank you, Rea Prendencia. Thank you also for this project, Consciousness in Evolution, which aims to spread the word from conscientiology around the planet. And we see you next time. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.